To every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. Newton's third law applies equally to politics as well as to physics. Europe and one of its most historic members, Austria, are experiencing this very effect. History and physics, two laws that govern the world. Join me, Jan Darasz, for How We Got Here.
This man, Herbert Kickl, has led Austria's far right to an unprecedented victory. As the leader of the country's Freedom Party, he garnered almost 29% of the vote back in late 2024 and utterly shook Austria's political landscape. This result by the FPÖ is the best one the far right has had in Austria since 1945. Kickl's victory is seen as yet another link in a rapidly growing and in some's view concerning chain of right-wing victories across Europe and beyond. The weight of this has not been lost on the man himself.
Patriotic forces are growing in number and strength. In Europe, but not only in Europe, also in the USA and in many other parts of the world.
But as in most parliamentary democracies, being the party with the most votes is not nearly enough to take power. You need coalition partners, parties whose views or at least interests align. Right after the FPÖ's victory, Kickl had been shunned. No one wanted to be a junior partner to what is widely seen as a pro-Russian and anti-EU party. There is one, however, who might bite on Kickl's offer. The Conservative Austrian People's Party, the OVP. The FPÖ has already been a junior partner to the OVP in past governments. The two groups are now negotiating a possible coalition. The OVP has been adopting some of the FPÖ's ideas, like those on tougher migration. Observers have warned the European Union to prepare for Chancellor Kickl and all that may entail.
The rise of right-wing populism led to non-populist parties being forced to build coalitions, and they are having a hard time because they are so different in their ideologies.
Some Austrians are very wary of this potential change in government. Protesters have voiced fears that Kickl will be another Orban and slide Austria into what the Hungarian Prime Minister has dubbed an illiberal democracy. As Germany, Austria's neighbour and close cultural friend, is readying for what could be a landmark snap election, many are drawing comparisons between the FPÖ and the alternative for Germany. After all, the AfD has quite similar views on the world as Kickl and his followers. If Kickl finally forms a government and the AfD wins in Germany and does the same, then the European Union will possess a very strong and genuine right-wing core in its heart, for the first time in its history.
Our guest today is Łukasz Ogrodnik, from the Central European Programme at the Polish Institute of International Affairs, based here in Warsaw. Welcome to the programme.
Thank you for having me.
The rise of the far right in Austria, is it something that Austria and by default almost the rest of Europe should fear? What are the implications for Austria? Let's start with that country.
Well, the former US President Franklin Delano Roosevelt once said that the only thing we should be afraid of is fear itself. However, among some politicians in Austria, in Western Europe, in other countries, there is present this emotion of fear. But for Austrian, if such government with the extreme right, FPÖ, will be established, it's not new. January 1st this year, Austria celebrated the 30th anniversary of joining the European Union. Just 5 years later, government with FPÖ as a junior partner was established. That was quite shocking for the European Union's capitals at that time, to that extent that some European Union states have frozen their diplomatic ties with Austria. But then again, in 2017 till 2019, FPÖ was a junior partner in the government. So at the federal level, FPÖ already twice co-ruled. And besides that, at the level of Bundesländer, so the Austria's states, they also co-governed many times. So will be nothing new if they will co-create a government. Sure. The new quality is that for the first time since the Second World War, they've won the elections to the lower chamber of Austrian parliament. That's new.
Historically, what has been the factor which has led, if we can call it, the liberal establishment to fear the far right? Is it the origins in kind of the Nazi murky past, or what exactly is driving them to panic?
I'm not sure if they panic, but maybe some reactions which show that it's troubling.
Yeah.
I think it could be last European Union's the elections to the European Parliament, June 2024, which showed a surge of far right among European Union's societies. It's not only Austria, but FPÖ won for the first time the European Union's elections. So trends could be troubling. It doesn't mean that a particular far-right party has to gain the power. At first, after the elections in Austria, it was September 29th, three political entities, other parties, liberals, social democrats, and centre-right Christian Democrats, they were trying to build a coalition, but they ended up with fiasco. So that's the chance for a new construction. But Austrians are running out of scenarios.
Well, that's right. I mean, is the support for the Freedom Party because there's no other option? That you can't go further because of the disillusion with contemporary politics. What's the attraction for the resurgence or the surge in support for the Freedom Party in Austria? Again, is that a deep-seated sentiment that goes back to what you were saying, the last 30 years, or does it go back even further?
Well, the party is very fine-rooted in Austrian politics. It was established in 1950s, so unlike many far-right parties across the continent. In 2019, the Ibiza, so-called Ibiza affair was revealed, and it was very much troubling for the FPÖ, showing the former chairman of the party, Heinz-Christian Strache, attempting to trade some political profits for money, and then significant drop for the party happened. But 2021, Herbert Kickl, the current chairman, and who knows, maybe the future chancellor, took over the management of the party, focusing on anti-migration policies, focusing on anti-vaccination policies. Austria, by the way, was the first European Union's country which introduced obligatory, mandatory vaccination. And also some economic troubles Austria was facing and is facing.
Fiscal policies.
Inflation rate high above the European Union's average. So these factors played good in the hands of FPÖ, giving far right the success in the last elections.
What about the attitude to the the present Russo-Ukrainian conflict? It seems to is it right to label it as a pro-Russian party or just as an anti-war party?
Well, anti-war rhetoric is very much present in the message of FPÖ. However, Austria is a neutral country, and that's what Austrian politicians are saying, not only far-right politicians, but all across the mainstream. Due to this neutrality, is very cautious. As a neutral country, it's not militarily supporting Ukraine. But it might change. So the policy, if FPÖ will again co-create a government, could be more pro-Russian, meaning in the European Union they can fight the other next sanctions on Russia. So it could be more troubling for Ukraine. However, it was Karl Nehammer, the former chancellor, who, as the first European Union's leader, went to Moscow after the beginning of Russian full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Then it was Viktor Orban, and recently, at the end of December, Slovakia's Prime Minister Robert Fico, but these were Austrians and not from the far-right party, which who set precedents here.
In Germany, there seems to be a similarity between extreme right and extreme left, if we can use those labels, which may be out of date by now. What's the situation like in Austria with the far left? Does that have a similar weight that it does in Germany? The green elements, the former communist parties?
In the National Council, the lower chamber of parliament, left is present, but these are the Social Democrats, so that's the central left party. Greens are also present. They co-created recently the government, but far left is out of mainstream. The Social Democrats have some areas where they are able to win elections. Recently in Burgenland, in eastern Austria, left SPÖ, so the Social Democrats, won the elections. However, FPÖ, far right, also gained popularity. As polls are suggesting, they are gaining popularity still after this massive amount of time. As I mentioned, September 29th were the elections, so the democratic processes last in Austria very long. Maybe not so long like in Belgium, but it takes some time.
Do you imagine that there will be some sort of deal hammered out in the near future, or is this going to be another dragged-out process?
Well, Austrians are running out of scenarios, so if the deal between Christian Democrats, who, by the way, co-rule since 1987, so their coalition capacity is very big. If they will not find a common way with FPÖ, that's a way to another election round.
A final question to you as we round up our discussion. The far right seems to be this term that's been flung around, calling everybody a Nazi, or all this sort of stuff all over Europe. And seems to be a political swing to far right parties. Is this just the normal pendulum of history swinging from one establishment to another? How do you gauge these movements on a broad level?
Well, in Germany, AfD co-creating a government would be revolutionary. It's not very likely, even they are gaining in some polls, but Austria is a different country. It's a specific country which is tradition of central or right co-ruling with the far right. President Alexander Van der Bellen broke a tradition after last elections, not tasking the winner of the elections, so the far right, with a mission to create a government.
Mistake?
Well, what he said was that there was no willingness of other partners to co-create such government, but circumstances have changed.
So all these firewalls that opposition politicians or government politicians, establishment politicians place in front of these right-wing movements tend to crumble down. Yes.
Crumbled, at least in Austria.
Yes. Łukasz Ogrodnik, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
That's all we have time for. Join us next time, Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays at 2:15 p.m. CET. See you then.